An uncommon whiff of much needed fresh air on the horizon of Indian public is how people describe the seasoned politician and Honorable Minister of Railways.
Chartered accountant by profession, Sri Suresh Prabhu is a banker, educationist, social worker, and a politician. He was instrumental in transforming one of the biggest cooperative banks, Saraswat Cooperative Bank, into a profitable one. Sri Suresh Prabhu started his political career in 1996 when he was elected for Parliament from Rajapur constituency. Sir held major industries under former PM Atal Bihari Vajpayee's government like Ministry of Industry, Environment and Forests, Fertilizers and Chemicals to name a few. Asia Week rated him as one of the 3 future leaders of India. Because of his deep understanding of global issues including energy, climate change, infrastructure, PM Narendra Modi named Sri Suresh Prabhu as his Sherpa for G20 Annual Summit.
Sri Suresh Prabhu is a Rajya Sabha member and currently works in the capacity of Union Minister for Railways. As a Minister for Railways, Sir has initiated many programs and schemes that have helped the Indian Railways undergo a makeover. Honorable Minister has been to more than 100 countries and has been associated with numerous national and international forums, parliamentary committees and clubs, confederations and associations. Classical music, reading, chess, table tennis, and collection of stamps holds his interest. We are indeed grateful and honored to have Honorable Minister with us here today. Sir, the stage is yours.
So, good morning, friends. I always look forward to the opportunities of coming to educational institutions because there you meet young people. Because there is always huge scientific development which has happened all over the world, but nobody has been able to do any scientific research and come to any new invention as to how to get back your youth. The only way you can get it back is by spending some time with young people like you. So therefore I'm very happy. And the happiness is doubled by the fact that I'm at Symbiosis, a place where, in true sense of the term, you impart knowledge to educate people, to create new citizens, to imbibe these values of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and also in the process create individuals who can face reality of life and can be empowered to deal with any situation that they will be encountering with. So I'm very happy that I'm again here, and I am extremely proud of the fact that an institution has been created in India which virtually can be rated as one of the best global institutions. And the very fact that more than 70-80 country students come here to study means that it has a true global recognition. So I'm very happy to be here again, and therefore I'm here to congratulate Dr. Majumdar, Vidya, Dr. Chitnis and all their colleagues for running an institution of such high caliber for such a long time, now for more than 25 years. Dr. Majumdar is one of the few teachers who created universities. Normally we first create universities and then find teachers, where will they come from? And nowadays finding teachers is more difficult than finding students. And sometimes students are better teachers than some of the teachers that we find somewhere. But it is very unusual that we have a teacher who created an institution, an university, and therefore it is not surprising that it has become such a high quality institution. So the dedication, sincerity of purpose and perseverance of running an institution for such a long time despite all odds is really tribute to the great contribution. So I really wish to congratulate Dr. Majumdar. And now the mantle falls on a young Vidya. So I really congratulate her as well. So I was just thinking, now 25 years have passed. In 25 years, many things have changed. Dr. Muzumdar has become younger. A gynecologist has become an educationist. Vidya was looking at anatomy of human bodies. Now she is trying to look at putting meat to those bodies, creating those bodies into individuals and humans by through education. And in last 25 years, world has changed. When this institution was set up, a mighty USSR, the largest country in the covering 2 continents, had just dismantled. The romanticism surrounding around the idea of communism can solve all problems were evaporating, had not fully gone. New economic thinking was just brought in by Reagan. And so Reaganomics was something which was becoming popular. In India, Mr. Narasimha Rao had done something phenomenal, changing the economic thinking of India. So what he did in dismantling controls, etc., was not as important as changing the mindset of people to think differently. Of course, many industrialists, I don't know whether Mr. Arun Firodia was one of them, but many industrialists were opposed to the idea that he is going to now sell India completely. No, I know, so that's what I'm saying. I don't know whether you are the one. And Arun Firodia, incidentally, is one of a real great thinker, so I really have a great admiration as well as respect for him. But many think there was a Bombay Club, which also was opposed to this idea of, though it was created much earlier, but the idea was, that's why I'm not saying to criticize anybody, I'm just saying this because the new economic thinking was just introduced in India, and obviously any new idea meets with resistance. So many people are thinking that it is not going to really necessarily help India. But this was a new thinking that was coming up in the world. India was changing, so was the world. And this was 25 years ago. Before that, I'm saying this because you are a management students. Before that, managing the world was not as difficult. There are 2 major economic blocks, political blocks also, but therefore they became economic blocks. So if you have to manage somebody, you have to manage somebody in that block. Managing USSR was thought to be easier because it was a command economy. Meet somebody important, then everything will fall in place. USA was a dominant power. Even now, though dominance is going down, still very dominant, largest economy of the world. And USA had a virtually another power center, another axis of this entire economic power. And US had a huge influence on major economies of the world, barring the USSR. Europe, obviously, Japan, Korea, many, ASEAN. And therefore, managing the world that time was a different situation than what became managing the changes that were taking place about 25 years ago. So probably Dr. Muzumdar must have realized that now we must have an institution to deal with international business, because international business was possibly becoming a reality. Till that time it was difficult because there are economic blocks. First time we are dismantling it globally. USSR had become several countries, then became CIS little later. And there was, in a way, WTO's real thinking was being felt, and therefore it was possible that one could really bring in a seamless uniform market, though it was not become reality. At that time, managing business was something different, but had changed considerably, so therefore needed an institution like this. And Indians had a great opportunity because we could never think about exporting. We never could think about global commodities could come to India. We could never think about global technologies and we'll probably get integrated to global supply chains. That we never could imagine, but it was becoming reality. And that time, therefore, making a business school to deal with that situation was easy. So 25 years ago, the world was changing. And what is today? The world is again going to change. I don't know for better or worse, but it's changing very fast. Today, this so-called one world, though this is absolutely, I'm not, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is the correct thing, but world, one market globally, there are a lot of question marks on that. Countries are creating different kinds of barriers in terms of selling and buying products. There is no longer possible that you can think about that you could join one trade bloc and therefore you can get integrated into other blocs. You can join one multilateral organization and therefore you get access to the global market, which thought to be the only way we can do business only few years ago is now becoming a new reality that is not going to happen. Donald Trump, when he became the president, he has taken the first steps of creating these major trade blocs rather than dismantling them. And therefore the world is changing again, in which there is going to be not just one world, one market, but probably several markets in one world. And therefore we really need to have the different business strategies for us. Post WTO, the biggest country which benefited from WTO, the country which joined the WTO the last, is the country China. China became the largest producer, surpassing Germany, became the largest exporter, and they benefited from the globalization all over the world. So just interestingly, 30, 40 years ago, China would not like to even allow anybody to integrate into their market. So that put walls around them, bigger and much taller than the Great Wall of China. And today, when the rest of the world is thinking about putting barriers, the Chinese president is saying that we don't need barriers, we should have an economic open market. We should not put any trade barriers because the country which has benefited the most. But in this context of changing world, now we need to think about how do you manage the businesses in this changing world. The strategy that we adopted 25 years ago was one. We thought it is the only strategy it can work for several years to come. Is now under question mark. I'm not saying it has changed irrevocably, but still there is a question mark. And therefore we really need to think now differently about how we should try to do business as a business graduates who are going to be graduating soon and will be entering this very interesting new era. How do you manage businesses in this new world is going to be a question. Of course, there are enough experts and Dr. Chitnis and all her colleagues are the right person to tell you how you should manage it. So I'm not getting into that. In any case, I have to leave in about 5 minutes. So I was telling her that it is such a, saw the film and suddenly struck me that how much changes have made and we should do it. The second important part is about typically when we talked about business management, we get into the elements of how do you do business. What is business? Ultimately, you buy materials, you buy labor, you buy finance, convert them into a sellable product. So you need, and then sell it. So you need obviously materials management. you need human resource management, you need finance management, and you have to sell something, you need marketing management. Sometimes when the governments are powerful, you need corporate relations manager. But these are the typically thought to be the management tools that are necessary to run businesses. I don't think we teach in any business school about what we teach in business school is what is known to us. We know about materials. So you can, of course, Mr. Daraj can say that we need different kinds of materials. So there are so many different products we can do combination. So what is known is something, how do you manage the known, that's what we teach in business school. Now what we'll have to probably teach in business school is what is not known. How to manage business in a manner that is what known to us. Because the world is changing so fast that managing the unknown is going to be the real success of the business. So somebody can say, I can only manage in my business, my shop floor. I can manage something which my competition is doing, and therefore another, probably a management tool was managing the competition. Learn something about a competitor which he doesn't know. Put somebody there, probably get information, so something, that was also part of the management. But now, what we are going to be doing in the future is, the future of material itself is not known. The kind of labor with the artificial intelligence coming, with the robotics becoming a reality, even the feature of labor, the future is not going to change, the future of labor is also going to change. And how do you manage that? So probably what you'll have to teach in business school is not what is known, but managing the unknown. And how do you teach that? I think, Mr. Chetnis, I don't want to spoil your day. And therefore, this is something which you'll have to also learn about. Anyway, I'm not here as a faculty nor as a student. Just last point. I had to attend 3 more programs and I didn't catch a flight to go to Delhi. Is managing the railways. And I think if any educational institution anywhere in the world can teach about how to manage railways, they should really be qualified to get a Nobel Prize. Because managing railway is so complex. So people come and give advice. Somebody will come and say, why don't you make profits from railways? Same time, his neighbor will ask me, why are you charging so much for railways? Somebody will say that why the food is not as good as what you get in the 7-star hotel. But a person next to him will say, you are charging 100 rupees for a meal. So this is the complexities of railways. But to manage it, and what we have done, and something which I would request you to please study it, we just stepped up the capital expenditure of railways used to be typically 30,000-40,000 crores a year. I mean, 40 was also high order. For several years, and that also only increased in 2009-14, the last 5 years of UPA, little marginally. We have taken it to 2,75,000 crores in the last 2.5 years. And always raising resources is far more difficult. We raised these resources at one of the best competitive rates. And incidentally, those who compare, and therefore I keep getting on WhatsApp, the railways in China, how fantastic. Railway in Japan. So we can do better than them, provided we do everything that Chinese and Japanese have done 30-40 years ago. We can do that. So this is something, and I remember once I had gone to, I don't want to get into, but just one small little, when Manmohan Singh had said that they will make Delhi, or rather Mumbai, Shanghai out of Mumbai. And I was in Shanghai that day. I have been to China 25, but maybe 30 times. I have several different capacities. So the ambassador told one of the TV team which came from India, they had gone there to see how Shanghai is and how Mumbai is, and therefore he said, he's the right person because China so well, he has been coming here for years. And he is from Mumbai, so he's the right person to talk. So that TV fellow asked me, can you make Mumbai out of Shanghai? I said, definitely. He said, how can you do it? I said, only one thing you have to do. How? I said, you have to first make China as India. as India-China. So then you can make it. So how do you do that? I said very simple. You have to make Indians as like what Chinese think about. They think about their country more, and therefore the thinking process has to change. So India, to change railways, we have to think about how we look at railways, how do you change India as a Prime Minister, and what you are saying. The Prime Minister vision is to change entire India. But Prime Minister vision cannot be accomplished unless all of you really think about this is my country and I must change therefore. But that's another issue. But I'm just saying what we have to do, railways, bringing it to standards of China or Japan or Europe, it is all possible, and that's what we are in the process of doing. But for that, what they did, we have to do. China invested $140 billion into the railways year after year. And we are now just started investing more, so that's why the investing was important. And we have stepped up the investment. Only 16,000 in the last 16% of railways network carries 65% of traffic. So we started investing there. So not just invest, but where do you invest? Invest where there is a more need. And there the congestion is almost 170% of the capacity. So we started investing into doubling and tripling. 16,500 kilometers of doubling and tripling and been sanctioned in the last 2.5 years, as opposed to more than 20,000 that was done only in the previous 70 years. Only 42% of lines are electrified. Now we are doubling the electrification in the next 5 years. All meter gauge line will be converted to broad gauge, and as soon as they are converted to broad gauge, they will also get electrified. So barring only narrow gauge, everything will be electrified. Everything electrified, everything will be meter gauge. So that's something which we are doing. We are trying to revamp the stations. Already about 40-50 stations will be developed by NBCC on the lines of airports. One station, which is 9 January, we laid the foundation stone by the Prime Minister in Gandhinagar. 300-room 5-star hotel is coming at the top of the railway station. Habibganj in Bhopal has always been handed over to a private company to run a station. So we are developing stations. 40,000 coaches, which was almost 90% of the coaches, are completely old, outdated. We are revamping them in the next 5 years' time. We are changing the entire customer experience, whether it is providing Wi-Fi, giving e-catering, changing the cleaning, even on just we push one button on the coaches where it is services available. You can get coach, clean my coach in 15 minutes flat, you get the coaching service. In fact, there are so many global schools, business schools are now doing a study about how can we provide an online, at the real time, service for complaint redressal, which is nowhere in the world, because we have only about 23 million passengers a day, and 8.1 billion passengers, more than population every year. So as you can imagine, and most of them are Indians, so how many complaints? And therefore, we actually are dealing with these complaints on a real-time basis, and now converting into not just complaint redressal, into management information system. So we can take action based on the complaint that we get of customer feedback. So this is a complete change. We have given orders of 40,000 crores to GE and Alstom to make diesel electric locomotives will be the best in the world. Now we are raising the speed from Delhi to Mumbai and Delhi to Calcutta, which are the major trunk routes, covering most of the major important states, to 200 kilometers in the next few years' time. So rolling stock will change, infrastructure will change, we are raising resources to make this happen. We are even doing human resource management of a completely different kind. We are even revamping the organization internally. I don't want to spell it out today, but we are working on many issues, completely transforming the railways in the next 5 years. And I hope there was some business course where I could enroll myself and learn about how to do it. Unfortunately, there are none. Dr. Saib, think about it. And therefore, we are really working on changing the railways in a manner that will really make it one of the real engines of growth. Every rupee that we invest in railways creates 6 times more output and GDP growth. National Council for Applied Economic Research has done a research, they will publish it soon, that few crore jobs will be created as a result of railways investments that we are doing it. Our target is to make 8,56,000 crores of investment in the railways in the next few years' time. and we'll double it once the first cycle of investment is over. So all of this is going to help economy, help industry, help passengers, help general ecosystem. Like just imagine the station changing. It's a new icon for development, including Pune is one of the stations that is available for redevelopment. So we are working on entire system like this, and I hope that these new leaders of business will help us to give us a new direction as to how do you manage railways in future. And therefore I look forward to all of you, the great alumni of this great institution, to please come forward also to not only manage business, but also manage nation, manage societies, manage institutions as large as railways. And I think that could be a real contribution. I hope you are definitely, I am very sure, not hope, will be sure that you will be equipped to deal with such situation thanks to the great institution, thanks to the great leadership that is provided here in Symbiosis. All the best to you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, sir. And as you rightly said, we will try and adapt the learning process which will manage the future and the unknown, and also we'll try and create a skill force which will manage railways. Thank you so much for coming for this function. He has extremely busy schedule and he has come all the way from Delhi, but we look forward to many more visits. Thank you.